Let's talk about simple interest. So we'll be discussing a few types of interest in this and like the coming sections. Simple interest, obviously the least complicated of the ones that we'll talk about, is basically the following. So let's say that you take out like $100 loan, and then let's say that the interest rate is 2%. So P is so let's say that the $100 that's called your principal. The principal is just how much money you're taking out, and then R is your interest rate. And then based off of this, if you're making 2% interest per year, that would be like $2 of interest in that year. Now, simple interest says that every year that you're going to be making interest on this loan or whatever it is, you're always going to be making $2 of interest. So even though at the end of the first year you'll have not $100, you'll have $102. So if you have like $102 at the end of your first year, well, 2% of 102 is not quite $2. It's a little bit more than $2. I don't know, like it's like maybe $2 and like a cent or something like that. I don't know. But like it'd be like a little bit more. So technically, like more realistically, each year you would be making slightly more interest on that loan. Simple interest says just ignore it. Just say that every year you're going to be making that same fixed $2 of interest. You're only ever caring about the 2% of the initial principal. Okay, so let's do an example to demonstrate this. So let's calculate the simple interest earned in 1 year on a deposit of $10,000 if the interest rate is 3%, and then we'll do it for 2 years. So our principal is $10,000, and our interest rate is 3%. So we just compute $10,000 times 0.03 to compute whatever that interest is. Okay, so 3% converted to a decimal, 0.03. So this is the same. Okay, so we have like 4 zeros here, so we just move the decimal 4 places to the right. So this would give us $300. Okay, so we're going to make $300 in that first year because we're just making 3% of that. And then if we were to do it in 2 years, all we have to do now is just take this $300 and multiply it by 2. So in 2 years, we would make $600. In 3 years, we would make $900. In 4 years, $1,200. So on. Right, and so technically there's a formula that goes along with this, although if you understand like what happened in this previous problem, then you don't necessarily need to use this formula. Certainly not everyone is going to need to memorize this, but maybe some people it'll be helpful for. So I'll include it. The simple interest formula just says that I, which is the interest, is equal to P times R times T, where P is the principal, R is the interest, and T is the time period. So relating this to the previous problem, let's do like for the 2 years, this says that the interest is PRT. P was the principal, which is how much the loan was for originally, the original value of the loan. R was 3% converted to a decimal, and then the time period was 2 years. And then you just multiply all those out, and that tells you that the interest is equal to $600. So I'll let you try this next example where we calculate the simple interest earned in 3 years on a deposit of $4,000 with an interest rate of 7%. So I recommend pausing, checking out what your answer is, unpausing, see if it compares to what I got, if you got the same thing, different thing, whatever. Give you a few seconds to pause. I'm guessing that you paused and tried it, and let's go over. So, all right, so our principal is $4,000. Our interest rate is 7%. So we first need to compute $4,000 times 7%, and then we just need to multiply that answer by 3. 4,000 times 0.07, that is equal to, so I'm moving the decimal right 3 places here and then left 2 places here. And then 4 times 7 is 28. So 4,000 times 0.07 would be 280. And then I just multiply that by 3. 28 times 3, that's like 60 plus 24. So that's 84, and then tack on that extra 0. So this would be $840. Okay. This one is pretty similar. The only difference is that here, this simple interest is earned in 4 months, and the interest rate is 2% per month. So in the previous one, everything was like kind of in years, so it didn't really like specify. So, you know, it's earned over 3 years. The interest rate is 7%. It wasn't really told explicitly to us that it was 7% per year, but like implicitly we can kind of assume that usually. Here we're saying that the interest rate is 2% per month though. Okay, so if they don't specify, you can usually assume that it's in years, but here it's specified to be in months. All right, so all we have to do is just do $2,000 times 2%, and this is going to be like how much interest we make in 1 month, right? Because it's 2% of $2,000 per month. That's how much interest we make in a month. And then if that's how much we make in a month, we just need to multiply that by 4 months to get how much we make total, or how much interest is earned total. So this is the same as 2,000 times, let's see, I'll do this times this, which is 0.08. 2 times 8 is 16, and then I multiply by 1,000 and then divide by 100. So I move the decimal right 1 in total. So this should be $160. Yeah, and so I can double check that. I'm just gonna, just because I'm doing a lot of mental math, I'm just gonna double check this on my calculator over on my computer. Boop, boop, boop. $160. Okay, so yeah, this looks good. Okay, cool. What if we change this problem ever so slightly to just say, instead of per month, it's per year interest rate. So we're still doing simple interest in a 4-month time period on a deposit of $2,000. That is not changing at all. But then we're making the interest rate of 2% be a per year instead of per month interest rate. Okay. Well, now if I do $2,000 and then compute 2% of it, so that would be $40. So this, you know, now in the previous problem, it would say like, oh, we're making $40 every month in interest, but now it's $40 every year in interest. So that changes what our final answer is going to be, because now we're doing 4 months instead of we're doing 4 months, and then we're making $40 per year. So 4 months, how many years is 4 months? 4 months is, well, a third of a year, because there are 12 months in a year, and so 4 out of 12 is like 1 out of every 3. So in total, we're going to make $40 times, we're just going to make like a third of that, because we're making $40 per year over a third of a year. And so 40 times a third, put that in the calculator, that's equal to $13.33. All right. Let's now kind of reverse it a little bit, so switch up the problem. So now let's say that instead of asking like how much interest we're going to be making, let's just say we know how much interest is going to be made, and then we want to know, well, what is the interest rate? So we want to say that our simple interest loan has a time period of 4 years, and it's a $3,000 principal. And the amount of interest made is $800, and we want to know what is the interest rate. So Okay, there's a couple of ways you can kind of think about this. How I kind of like to think about this is the following, but maybe I'll show you the other way as well, which would be to kind of use the formula. So in 4 years, we make $800. So we should probably first figure out how much are we making per year, because we're really looking for like a per year interest rate. So we're making $800 per year. Sorry, not per year. We're making $800 over a time period of 4 years. So, oops. So in 1 year, how much do we make? Well, $800 divided by 4 is equal to $200. So we're making $200 in interest per year. And then we just need to say, well, what percent of 3,000 is equal to 200? So really I'm saying like 3,000 times what percent is equal to 200. And I can just solve this by dividing both sides of the equation by 3,000. And so get that R is equal to 200 over 3,000, which is equal to 0.066 repeating, or converting that to a percentage, that would be 6.6 repeating. I'll just round it to 6.67%. Okay, so this would be our interest rate. And we could always check our answer too if we wanted to. So if we were to do P is equal to, our interest rate is equal to P times R times T. This would be, well, P is 3,000. R is now being, we just figured out, is like 0.06 repeating, or 0.667. And then T is equal to 4. So if I were to do in my calculator, 3,000 times 0.0667 times 4, I'm going to get about 800.4. So like this equals like 800.4. And note that like we are rounding, like this is like really supposed to be 0.6 repeating, and I rounded this to 0.0667. And so this answer is going to be like slightly off because of that. But you know, 800.4 versus $800 with a little bit of rounding error, these look the same to me. By the way, you could use this interest formula to actually solve this problem to begin with, because if we know that our interest is $800, our principal, P, is $3,000, R we're trying to figure out, and then T is told to us to be 4. Well, if you just plug all this information in, we now have a equation where we could just solve for R. So you can kind of start by dividing both sides by 4, and then you get 200 is equal to 3,000 R, and then you divide both sides by 3,000, and then you get to these, well, at this point, we're like literally at the same stage that we were up here, and then you'll just get the same answer of 6.67%. With rounding. All right. Let's do future or maturity value. So these are the same thing. And it really just means like how much money do you have after you make the interest. So let me relate it to like this problem, I guess. So in this problem, after 4 years, so we started with $3,000, and after 4 years, we made $800 interest. This tells us that the future value after 4 years is going to be $3,800. Just means is literally just like how much money you have after you like add the interest. Okay, so if you ever want to figure out your future value, also called the maturity value, all you have to do is say what's my principal, Then figure out how much interest you're making, and then just add the principal plus the interest. So if we want to calculate the maturity value of a simple interest 6-month loan of $2,000 with a 2% interest rate, we first have to just compute the interest rate. So the interest rate is, well, we do $2,000 times 2%. And then, well, it's, okay, so this is, it's a little tricky because I said it's a 6-month loan. And the interest rate is 2%. I'm not saying like whether this is like 2% per year or 2% per month. If it's not specified, it's usually in years. So 6 months so we don't want to multiply by 6 here. We want to multiply by like how many years. Well, 6 months is like how many years? Well, there are 12 months in a year. So 6 over 12 is like how many years we have, which of course you could just write that as a half. So 6 months is equal to half a year. So our time frame is half a year. Okay, 2,000 times 0.02 times a half. Well, let's see. This is half of 0.02 is 0.01. And then 0.01 times 2,000 is, well, 0.1% of 200 is 1. Is 2. So this would just be $20. Yeah, okay. Here I'm moving the decimal right 3. Here it's left 2. So it's 2. Yeah, okay. So this is good. So $20 is our interest. And then so our maturity value or future value is then just going to be $2,000 plus our interest, which is $20 of interest, which is equal to $2,020. All right. All right. So there's technically a formula that goes with this. It's really simple. It just says that the future value or the maturity value, whatever you want to call it, for the simple simple interest setting is A equals P plus I, where A is the amount after the interest has been added to the principal. So I is the interest, P is the principal. Just add the principal, your initial loan value, to however much interest you have, and that gives you the amount of money that you will have after adding the interest. Okay, something to note here. So the interest is equal to PRT, right? So if I were to just take this formula right here and replace I with PRT, this would be P plus not I, but P plus PRT, as I have right here. Okay. And then if I were to factor out a P from both of these terms, factor out a P from this, because this is really like P times 1, and this is P times RT. If I factor out a T from both of those terms, I'm going to be left with P times 1 plus RT. So to summarize, you could actually replace the formula that we had before with A is equal to P times 1 plus RT. So this is your future value. P is your principal. R is your interest rate. And T is your time period. And usually you want your interest rate and your time to be in years. Really, you just want your interest rate and your time to just like have the same unit. So like if they're both in months, then this is going to work. If they're both in years, then this is going to work. But you know, if your interest rate is in years and your time is in months, then you want to convert your time back into years so that the time units on both of these match. All right, so as an example of using that, so let's calculate the maturity value of a simple interest 3-month loan of $1,000. That's our principal if the interest rate is 0.2%. All right, so I think you're probably capable of attempting this problem on your own at this point. So pause the video, give it a shot, unpause, and see if you get the same answer as me. Okay, so I don't particularly care which way that you do it. Just to kind of be a little bit different, I'm going to show how to use this whole formula. So let's actually just kind of bring this over. So your future value or maturity value is going to be equal to P times 1 plus RT. Our principal is $1,000. And then here we have 1 plus, now R is 0.2%. What is 0.2% as a decimal? Well, to convert to a decimal, I always move the decimal left 2 places. So this would be 0.002. And then this is a 3-month loan. 3 months is equal to how many years? Well, there are 12 months in a year. So this is, oops. So 3 divided by 12, that's equal to 1/4 of a year. Let's move that off to the side. And so this, depending on what our calculator tells us, is just going to be our maturity value. So I'm going to type this into my calculator off to the side and tell you what I get. So 1 plus 0.002 times 1/4. Okay, I'm getting 1,000.5. Really, it would be like 1,000.50. So yeah, this, and so it should probably make sense that this is like very little interest. We're only making 50 cents of interest. Like an interest rate of 0.2% is like super small. And yeah, so if you're to do, let's just kind of develop a little bit of number sense here too. Let's say, well, 0.2% of 1,000 is 0.002 times 1,000, which is just equal to 2. So this is saying we're making $2 per year. And then if this is like on a 3-month loan, that's 1/4 of a year. So what's 1/4 of $2? 1/4 of $2 is 50 cents. So it should make sense that our principal is only going up by 50 cents here. All right, this will be the last thing we do here. Let's kind of reverse it where we are told what our future value is, and we want to figure out what the simple interest rate is. So the future value of a 3-month loan of $1,500 is $1,650. What is the simple interest rate? So we can first say, well, our interest is going to be just like how much money we made off the principal. So we started with $1,500 and then we ended up at $1,650. So the difference, how much interest we made is just $1,650 minus $1,500, which is equal to $150. So we made $150 interest. And then we can say, well, interest is equal to principal times rate times time. So 150 is equal to principal is 1,500. Rate is unknown. Time is 3 months. 3 months is 1/4 of a year. So 150 is equal to 1,500 R times 0.04. So let's first multiply both sides by 4. Is that the best thing to do? I'm actually going to divide both sides by 1500 first. Because 1500 or 150 divided by 1500, like the 15s will cancel, the zeros will cancel. 15 divided by 150 is equal to a tenth. And then r times a fourth is the same as r over 4. So I can multiply by 4 on both sides to get rid of the 4's, and then say that r is equal to 4/10, which is 0.4. Okay, cool. So 0.4, if I want to convert 0.4 to a percent, I move the decimal to the right 2 places, and so that would be 40%. Okay, so I did not pick the most realistic numbers here because you're not really going to find a lot of loans out there that are 40% loan. Like this would be like 40% per year. Notice that, going up by $150 in a quarter of a year, it's going up by like 10% in a quarter of a year. That's like an insanely high amount of interest. So really not realistic numbers here, but you get the point, hopefully. You figure out your interest just by taking the difference, and then this reduces to a problem that we were solving at the beginning of the video where we say interest is equal to PRT, and then just plug everything in and solve for R. All right, cool. Thank you for listening and hope this helped. I'll see you in the next one.